This might sound crazy, but I have read over 100 books on topics of investing, money, and finance in the last 10 years. And today, I want to introduce you to the 7 of my favorite books in this area. Before I get into it, if you're new here, my name is Soho Fini. I'm a certified financial planner and private wealth advisor, and I firmly believe that anybody who is interested in money, investing, and educating themselves should check these books out. Before I introduce you to these books, I want to make it very clear that I have intentionally excluded any books that promises to serve as a manual or a step-by-step guide. I'm not a big fan of those books because they typically overgeneralize investing and finances. I promise you, if you stick with me to this list, you're going to find at least one book that you've probably never heard of before. Let's get into them. Number 1, Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. This book has been around for quite some time, and it really delivers on what the title of the book is: to simplify investing and building wealth. J.L. Collins essentially says there are 3 core pieces into building wealth. Number 1 is to spend less than what you earn. Number 2 is to avoid debt at all costs. Number 3 is to invest the rest. He's also not a big fan of sexy, elaborate, crazy investments. He believes in simplified, low-cost, pretty straightforward investments, and he heavily emphasizes on remaining invested for a long period of time in a very diversified manner. My personal favorite thing from this book comes down to 2 things: the concept of enough. J.L. Collins is a big fan of you coming to terms with what is that amount of money that's enough for you, and he makes it very clear that amount is different for each person. Number 2, the power and importance of FU money. The way J.L. Collins thinks about FU money is not so much in the sense of money to go buy a bunch of stuff and spend on very fancy, expensive things, but it's the money that gives you the ability, the freedom to walk away from unideal situations, turn down a job that's not ideal, and walk away from toxic environments. Number 2, The Holy Grail of Investing by Tony Robbins and Christopher Zook. This book, I believe, was the 3rd book from Tony Robbins' personal finance series. And in contrast to J.L. Collins' Simple Path to Wealth that sticks to pretty straightforward, no-frill investments, this book intends to introduce the general investor population to more alternative investments, things such as hedge funds, private equity, private credit, and things of that nature. Think about it this way: investments generally fall into public markets, which are investments that are available to everybody, and private markets that generally are reserved for higher net worth individuals, angel investors and institutional investors. And Tony introduces the reader to that world and talks about a lot of development in that space where those types of investments are now becoming available to retail everyday investors. Now, I think it's also important to recognize that those investments generally come with a significantly higher level of risk. So again, if you're an investor and you want to learn about these things and you want to expand your understanding of investing, I think this book brings a very interesting perspective that is very much complementary and in some ways at odds with J.L. Collins' Simple Path to Wealth. I want to make it clear that while in this book you are introduced to more sophisticated ideas about money and investing, Tony makes it very clear that diversification still is key, and remaining invested for a long period of time still beats trying to make quick money. Number 3, Other People's Money by John Kay. This book is one of the most underappreciated books in the world of investing and personal finance. This book came out in 2015, so a few years after the financial crisis, and it is a sharp critic of the financial markets. My favorite thing about this book is that it introduces the reader to the world of finance and capital markets in a way that for the most part they are shunned away from. This book takes a look at the current state, or at least the state of financial markets and the world of finance in 2015, which less or more stays the same. If anything, it's gotten a lot more complex than the time that this book came out. And he makes the argument that the financial markets today have moved away from the initial intention of the world of finance, which was supposed to connect businesses and individuals with money and facilitate economic activity. He more so makes a sense that today the world of finance is very self-serving and it's mostly inward focused when it comes to the activities. This book also provides a very good amount of insight on some of the inner workings of the financial markets, such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and institutions of that nature. Again, these are things that are not really talked about in most personal finance books, but if you're an investor and you really want to expand your understanding of how the global financial markets work before you put money into them, or if you have money in them, I think this book provides a very, very unique set of perspectives and insights. Number 4, Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. I don't think there is a single list out there of the must-read financial books that does not include this book. My favorite thing about this book is that Morgan Housel makes a very successful case for the fact that finances need to be looked at from a lens of psychology and social sciences and history instead of a science or math or quantitative analysis. He makes it very clear that luck plays a massive role in investing. He makes it very clear that a behavior plays a massive role in investing. And he also stands very firmly that while there are some fundamental things that apply to everybody, ultimately the way you go about making financial decisions, it's very specific to you and your lived experience. One of the things I took away from Morgan Housel's book, and I have read also some of his other teachings and listened to him in various podcasts, is that I can best put it in words as he is driven by a level of financial anxiety that he actually makes it work for him. He makes the point of, save money even if you're not saving for anything in particular. So I think, again, if you're an investor, whether you're really deep in your investing journey or very early on, Morgan Housel's Psychology of Money will give you such insight on how you are going about making financial decisions, the biases that you might have, and I think it's going to be important for you to understand those. Number 5, and the complete opposite of that book, is Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. Die with Zero is ultimately that. He essentially makes the case that you have to plan for your life in a way that by the time you die, there is no money left. Bill Perkins, I think, paints this very extreme image that he says, you know what? You can figure out how much money you need. You can save enough money for that and use financial instruments that are available so that you make sure you never run out of money. But anything above that, you need to give away and spend when you're alive. He talks about the fact that you ultimately retire on your memories. And he also introduces one of my favorite subjects in the world of personal finance, that as you go through various stages of life, various types of experiences lose relevance. So it's very important for you to do certain activities and experiences that you want to experience in your life at that moment in time that is relevant to you. He ultimately goes to say that dead people do not get to be generous, and generosity is an exclusive quality of the living. I love this book because you rarely in the world of personal finance come across such earth-shattering or provocative ideas, but he really gets you thinking. And I think he introduces something to the world of personal finance that most financial gurus and professionals rarely talk about in such a frank way. Number 6, The Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway. I think this book offers a more balanced view between the teachings of Bill Perkins and Die with Zero and Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. When Morgan Housel has a bit of an anxiety-driven approach to money and Bill Perkins takes more of the spend it all type of approach, the Algebra of Wealth, I think, meets somewhere in the middle. So Scott Galloway, who's a professor at NYU, successful business owner, a podcaster, is a relatively public persona. He is very public about the fact that he is not a frugal person and he likes spending money. And he at the same time makes it very clear that in order for you to build wealth in a meaningful way, you have to be willing to stay focused, practice stoicism, diversify your investments, and create a lot of time with your investments. So Algebra of Wealth, I think, is one of those books that also focuses on skills as a part of what it takes to make money. He does recognize that luck does play a role in making money, but he says there's certain things you can do to tilt the odds in your favor, but he recognizes the impact of luck in the same way that Bill Perkins, Morgan Housel, and also J.L. Collins recognized those as well. I love this book. I think it's one of those books that no matter where you are, whether you are in high school and you're deciding what to study, or you have kids who are making those decisions, or frankly today, maybe you're in your 40s and 50s, you have a career and you're thinking about a career change, I think this book can be extremely insightful because not only he talks about money and investing and how to build wealth, he also talks about how to go about choosing skill sets that can generate a lot of income. And number 7, The Ambition Trap by Amina, AlTai. This book is a relatively new book, and it's probably the book that focuses the least on investing and finance in this list. But she talks about ambition in a capitalist society. And again, if you are reading about finance and money and are watching this video, I think there's a part of you that has a level of ambition. And it's important to recognize between painful and purposeful ambition, which is really the core teaching of Amina AlTai's book. In this book, you are invited to take a step back and re-examine the way you are seeking wealth and success, and to improve that relationship very, very, very early on to avoid burnouts. And I think in alignment with a lot of other authors on this list, find your enough and understand what is the purpose of you finding wealth. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this list. I really hope you spend some time for the remainder of 2025 to read, if not all, at least most of these books. If you found this video to be helpful, please like and subscribe when I'm dropping more videos. Thank you so much. Until next time.